Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Friday, trade deadline day in the National Hockey League, and all of our guests, including Doug Maclean, standing by. Brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort. Escape to the Bayside Oceanfront Resort, the ideal mid-island destination for a relaxing weekend getaway. Enjoy comfortable accommodations, ocean views, exceptional service. Book your stay today at Bayside Resort Parksville.com. He's the former head coach and GM of the Columbus Blue Jackets, former head coach of the Florida Panthers, longtime NHL analyst, the pride of Prince Edward Island. He joins us now on this trade deadline day. Doug Maclean, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's such an honor to. I don't get to on the West Coast that often, with the time change. So it's really. I try to rattle things up a little out there once in a while, but pretty quiet this year.
I'm looking on your Twitter account. Most of it has to do with PEI real estate and not hockey. What's going on there, Doug?
Well, you got to make a living when you get fired. I mean,
we know.
It's the same for you guys. You get the boot. You got to reinvent yourself. So, I've always been in PEI real estate for a lot. Actually, you know what? It's funny. I started buying land there investing in land 20 years ago. So it's kind of now it's finally happening that we're getting some things going. So it's good.
Doug, I'm sure you've heard about Mikko Rantanen on his way to the Dallas Stars. It just everything happened so quickly. What happened to him with Carolina where it just didn't work out and he didn't produce all that well?
Well, I think he was so devastated when he left Colorado. It caught him so off guard. I mean, he was holding out, wouldn't sign, lots of offers, and thought they would come around. And all of a sudden, they pulled a fast one on him, and CMAC, Chris McFarland traded him. So, it caught him off guard. Carolina, hey, a good place to play with a great coach and a genius general manager. I know one guy smarter than the GM there, and that's Brian Burke. He's the only guy I know that's smarter than that GM there. So I think, it just caught him so off guard. He never found his footing. Listen, he played with McKinnon in Colorado. He played with Landeskog before Landeskog got hurt. I mean, he's had some great people to play with. That's why I love the Dallas fit so much. He's going to go in there with some good players. And I think it's the acquisition of the day for me. The Stankoven's a good player. I get that, but I still and the picks. But I still like the pickup by Dallas. I think Dallas right today could be the favorites.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you be interested if you were still a GM in Brock Besser?
I'm a Besser fan because he scores goals. A concern of mine would be when do the wheels start to fall off. The guys that aren't pure skaters, you worry about them. You're worried about guys' hands. I'm not worried about his hands, but I'm worried about the wheels. Usually the hands go first, and then the wife goes second, and then the legs go third. But with Besser, I just think he's a good player. I thought LA would jump all over him. I know they need scoring, but look, when I saw they offered him the 8x5, if that's accurate, I thought, that's a pretty fair offer by the Canucks. And I hope he stays. I hope he stays with them in the future.
Hey, Doug, the Canucks had to ask Soucy to waive his no trade. How tough is that on players in this week?
What's Soucy doing with a no trade?
Thank you.
Thank
Seriously.
You. Yeah. What is that all about?
Thank you.
But you know what? On trade deadline, the worst thing of trade deadline, the number one thing as a GM is you have to make the call. All your scouts are giving you tips. All your assistants are giving you tips. And God knows there's a lot of assistants in Vancouver who can give tips. But I'm telling you, you get a ton of tips. But when you have to make the call on a deal, it's really pressure that you're saying yes to the deal or no to the deal. And, there's lots of things involved, money, ownership, lots of conversation prior. But making the trade is a big thing. The second toughest thing is phoning the player and tell them they're moved. Now you have to phone and ask them, will you waive your no trade? Like, seriously. And Soucy, I mean, I liked Soucy last year. I thought he fit in really well there. It's been a little better lately. But I don't know. I don't get it. I think the Canucks are a little bit lost in the woods here, and they've got to figure this out really fast.
Doug, we had Tom Glardy, the Dallas owner, on a couple of days ago. In your history, how much do owners play a role in trade deadline week?
You know what? The owners, well, they've got messengers. They've got guys that send word out. Like, I remember when I traded Sador to Tampa for Svitov. Svitov was we liked Svitov a lot, and Hitchcock loved him when we got him, and he was fine, but they didn't get him re-signed after I left. But it was, you got to move the $8 million we owe Sador. You've got to move this money. We cannot re-sign Ray Whitney for that kind of money. I mean, those are the messages that come from the owners, and they come through the owners' accountants or whatever. But wow. the owners are involved. There's no denying that. And they 90% of coaches that get fired, it comes from the owner. The owners get to hate coaches really quick. It takes them longer to hate GMs, but they really get to hate coaches fast. So they're involved, and or the guys that I work for. The best one was when I was coaching the Panthers, and Huizenga was sitting with Jack Nicklaus, who, by the way, is one of the greatest golfers in the world, but he's also an expert in everything. And I'll never forget either Torrey or Brian Murray coming in and saying, Huizenga wants you to change your lines. I said, Huizenga? He said, well, Jack Nicklaus told him that you should do a couple
wow.
of adjustments. I said, like, good God, give me a break with you boys. I mean,
wow.
Jack, try to get my drive over 200 yards. Yeah. Forget about the lines. But anyway, so, yeah, the owners get involved. There's a lot of money involved. So, yeah, they get involved. I don't know Aquilini, so I can't comment on him. But lots of owners I dealt with got involved. There's no denying that.
Jack Nicklaus is one of his assistant GMs, Doug.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, it's on. But, the owners are great. I'll never forget Mr. Mack. He was one of the great guys, and he called me out to his golf course for a big meeting, huge meeting. And I go out there, I'm nervous. What's this going? What's all this? And I get out there, we sit down, and we're the only people in the dining room at his private golf course. And we start to have maybe 30 seconds into the conversation, and he fell asleep. And I sat there and waited for like 20 minutes. And then I said to the waiter, I said, I think I'm just good. So I left and went home. And I mean, they probably let him sleep for a while. So, sometimes they're involved, but sometimes it doesn't mean a lot, Anyway.
Hey,
fun.
I'm not sure if Aquilini's falling asleep at meetings, but you touched on this earlier. What's your read on the Canucks' difficult season? Because they went in with so much promise this year.
I'm really disappointed. I mean, look, going into the finals or the conference finals last year, they were playing so well. They were battling. They were really a good team. I thought at the first year they were a definite contender in the West because, I liked a lot of things they had done. I mean, Pettersson, to me, I said a few years ago, he was going to be the next Datsuk. And what has, in God's name, happened between him and Miller? I mean, we've talked about it way too much. Yep. But, I really like Demko. Looked like he was ready to become a star. Hughes is a star, one of the best defensemen in hockey. Pettersson should have been, and they had. But to me, they've lost their identity. They were a tough team to play against last year, guys. Yep. They had a big blue line. Yes. They were tough to play against. And there's two teams in the league, to me, that have lost their identity this year. One is the Nashville Predators, which were always one of the hardest working teams in the league and really lost their way. And Vancouver, for whatever reason. And it's disappointing.
Meanwhile, on the other side of things, hard not to be impressed with what your old team, the Columbus Blue Jackets, Doug, are up to right now.
It's fun to see. I was saying to somebody the other day, I must have had 500 mugs from Kinsman meetings and Legion meetings and Kiwanis meetings selling the game in Columbus. I mean, it was a challenge, guys. I'll never forget my kid coming home from school. He was 9, and he said, Dad, hockey's not going to work here. They hate hockey here. They hate hockey. They love football. They hate hockey. And he was 9. I said, Clark, don't say that again. We got to make it work here, man. I need a job. So, you know what? 700 kids were playing minor hockey then. There's 8,000 kids playing minor hockey in Columbus. You know,
wow.
I'll never forget Mike Humes, who was my senior VP of business. We talked about, I remember saying in like maybe 2003, Mike, wouldn't it be amazing if we could ever get an outdoor game at Ohio State with the Red Wings? I mean, we're not thinking we would be there for a long, long time to get it done. But to watch that with 94,000 people in the stands, it was unbelievable. We had to sell 12,000 tickets to make it happen with the league, and we had to get a $3 million TV deal. It was unbelievably challenging. And you know what? To see it today, it's great, especially with the Goudreau tragedy, with all the things that have gone on. It was really rewarding to watch that game last week and see how they look. I wouldn't want to play them in the first round, guys. They're playing good hockey. I didn't like their game last night, but they're playing good hockey.
We could go on and on. Why aren't you still in the analyst business on a regular basis?
Well, you know why? Because I've moved into this category of I do things free, you know?
Yeah.
So I get a lot of requests as long as it's free, you know?
Yeah. We're kind of in the same boat here.
You know what I do? I do Kiprios' show every Friday. Yeah. And he asked me 2 or 3 years ago. So we do it every Friday. It's off the rails. It's a disaster. But he feels now he's like my boss. You know, he's like he's my boss now. So I have to do every Friday. So look, I've had a ball doing it. It's been fun. It's been good for the book sales. So it's fine. I get a kick out of it. I still follow the league pretty close, but I've got, you know what, to be quite honest, I probably have too many opinions, you know, too many.
Never have enough.
No such thing in this business. Tell people about your book, Doug. You mentioned it there.
Well, I did draft a few years ago with Scott Morrison, and you know what, we thought it. I really didn't want to do a book, but when they talked about it being about the draft, I got intrigued by it. We did it. I was nervous. I used to go to bed at night thinking, who the hell is going to read this? Who's going to read this? And you know what? It came out, and I had pretty good. We were a bestseller for almost 5 months in a row.
Wow.
Paperback came out in paperback. They're closing in on 50,000 books sold, which is, they thought we'd sell 10,000. And you know what? I got a call from Jimmy Devellano when the book came out, and he said, I thought, oh, what's Jimmy? Because I had given him a couple little shots in the book. I thought, oh, here I go. I got to listen to this. Doug, Jim Devellano here. Doug, I just read your book. And you know what? I got to tell you, Doug, it is the most accurate sports book on hockey I've ever written. And he said, as a matter of fact, you were nice to people. You were even nice to people who I know you hate. And he said, and by the way, you were very kind to Ken and myself, you know, Ken Holland. Wow. So that was the ultimate compliment on the book, because Jimmy D is a historian. He loves the game. Yes. He's a historian. And when he said it was accurate, I felt pretty good about that. So anyway, it's gone well, and now I just did a new deal with Simon & Schuster. I'm gonna write a book. Probably it'll come out not this Christmas, but next Christmas, and it's going to be so you want to be a general manager in the NHL? ? Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm going to, you know, just more or less about the day in the life of a GM and the job as a GM and everything that goes with it, from dealing with agents, dealing with players, dealing with coaches, dealing with media. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm kind of excited. I've sort of done the outline and just starting on it. So it'll be kind of fun.
Is there a chapter on making sure your owner stays awake during meetings?
Yes, important.
And there's a section on owners. I'll never forget when we were at the meeting for the biggest meeting, the Board of Governors meeting, and I was there because Mr. McConnell wasn't feeling well that day, so I was there. And we come to the vote, and the vote is: do we stay the course, and keep the players locked out, or do we change paths? And so the vote goes, Anaheim, Atlanta, whatever, and it gets to Detroit, and this Mr. Wilson, the owner of Tampa Bay, yells out, "Stay the course." And Bettman says, "Mr. Wilson, it's Mr. Illich that is making this vote. It's Detroit." He said, "I'm Detroit." Well, he owned the Toronto NBA team, and he got confused that he was at an NBA meeting versus an NHL meeting.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
wow.
Mr. Illich is there like shaking his head. Mr. Wilson, and then they come to Tampa Bay, and they said nobody voted, and he said, "Mr. Wilson, it's Tampa's." "I already voted." And he said, "No, you voted for Detroit. It's Tampa Bay we're talking."
Oh my goodness.
Sounds like a chapter to me. Hey, nobody fell asleep during this interview, Doug. We appreciate it. And I know it's busy. Thanks so much for this.
It's not that busy, guys. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey,
appreciate it. And great. I hear great things about this. So slow down on Shanny. He's a little dull. Slow down. I'm kidding. Kidding. Have fun, guys.
Hey, listen, there's going to be some BC people checking out those PEI real estate prices.
Yeah.
They're going to be even busier. Thanks for this.
Oh, we like it. We like it.
Yeah. Thanks for this,
care,
Doug.
guys.
We'll get you back on. Thanks so much.